Nico is gone. Tennessee has a spot to fill at the quarterback position. What does that look like? Where does Tennessee go? What are some options? That and so much more. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. Appreciate you for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen here every single morning, every day. It's good to do the show without you. Thanks so much for sending in your questions on the show the other day. So many. I didn't get to so many of them, but I know that there's a lot going on right now, and I do appreciate you guys sending me in your thoughts and your questions. Hopefully we can answer some of those later in the week. This episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel. New customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every single moment more. Got a couple important guests on the show today. Josh Ward going to work a little overtime. We're going to talk with him in segments 1 and 2. His thoughts on the Nico Iamaleava situation, where Tennessee goes from here. The transfer portal officially opens today, not just quarterback, but what other positions does Tennessee need in the transfer portal? Catching up with Josh Ward, getting his perspective on everything going on right now in segments 1 and 2. And then I'm going to chat with Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football. Joined his show the other day. Going to play that clip on some reactions. It was earlier in the week, so it was very fresh. Like the Nico stuff was happening, not in real time, but just kind of wrapped up. And so get his thoughts on that and kind of where Tennessee goes from here as well. All that and more coming up here on a Wednesday Locked On Vols. All right, without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Josh Ward. Kind of a slow week, not a whole lot going on, right?
Well, there's one story that I think has brought some attention to Vol Nation and Tennessee football this week. But beyond that, yeah, it's been pretty slow.
This is the biggest story for the University of Tennessee since Nico committed. It's bigger than the Elite Eights. It's bigger than baseball's national championship. It's bigger than the Kim Caldwell hire. It's probably not bigger than when Jeremy Pruitt was ousted and Josh Heupel was hired, but again, that came before. I mean, this is the biggest Tennessee story since Nico Iamaleava committed to the university. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, in terms of story, I think the 22 win over Alabama would be up there, but this has drawn comparisons to coaching changes, which live in their own world of storylines and the amount of coverage. And that's more drawn out over a timeline because you go from firing to search to hiring to maybe sometimes you have more thrown in there. But this is so many different things. It's the unprecedented aspect in some ways of the way this worked out. You have the history of Nico from the coverage of him as a high schooler and getting his contract when he was in high school and didn't even play yet for Tennessee, to the way that this is ending, the way that it's played out through the media, the back and forth with fans and media, and then the need for Tennessee to go find a quarterback, the most important position. So it has so many layers for sure.
Yeah, and again, you always hear rumblings. I've said this last couple of days. You always hear talk out there. But the fact that it kind of snowballed. I mean, it was, okay, there's some talk out there. Reports, there's denial, doesn't show up to practice. Then you got Chris Lowe of ESPN reporting a bunch of stuff on Friday. And then finally it was Pete Thamel on Saturday morning saying, all right, Tennessee's moving on. Like it spiraled out of control in a hurry. And, a lot of times in sports, these stories, they happen this way, but it's still kind of shocking to me that you went from a spot on Thursday where it's like, this will probably be okay, to a little under 24 hours later on Friday, afternoon. It's like, I don't see any return to this. I mean, I kept telling friends and family, there's no return to this, because even if the only way Nico could have returned from where he was Friday afternoon was if he held his own press conference and said, "Yo, I messed up." And even then, there'd be people that wouldn't have accepted him back. But it just happened so quickly. It's kind of astonishing.
Yeah, in the middle of Josh and Swain on Thursday, the Pete Nico story comes out, and from there to noon on Friday when we started our show, we had gone from nobody talking about the possibility of Nico leaving Tennessee to he's gone. I know he wasn't officially gone. It was the report on Saturday that you mentioned, but when we knew that he had skipped practice and that he was a no-show and had surprised coaches and his teammates with that, we knew that he wasn't coming back. So I didn't think there was a chance, and it turns out there wasn't one at that point. So it all happened so quickly. And there is the turn to what can Tennessee do to replace him? And that's an unknown as of this conversation. And Nico's destination as of this conversation is unknown. There can be some changes, some dominoes that fall that affect it, but it went from 0 to 100 as quickly as any major story I can really remember.
Yep, it definitely did. And now Tennessee's tasked with replacing your quarterback. And, again, I think Josh Heupel did a phenomenal job on Saturday. I think he said all the right things. I think the way he handled it, thanking Nico, and then he kind of got into it. And you could tell, I mean, he feels some type of way about the whole situation, obviously. But I thought he did a great job on Saturday. But now it's about finding a quarterback for Tennessee. And the transfer portal officially opens today. It'll be open for 10 days. Doesn't mean the players have to choose their next destination. They just have to be in if they're going to, go in there. SEC to SEC is off the table here in the spring window. Josh Heupel made it abundantly clear that they're going to have to add a quarterback. How difficult will it be for Tennessee to find a starting quarterback in the transfer portal? And I know, we're going to have new names jump in all the time, so it's a little bit of an unknown right now. But I still think it's to find a starting quarterback, maybe not so hard. To find an established starting power 4 quarterback, I could be wrong, but I don't think that there's going to be just an abundance of those guys that jump in the portal here at the end of April.
Yeah, I think that will be difficult. It's not a huge collection of quarterbacks that are available. When I say available for conversation behind the scenes, third-party connections, all that. So yeah, that's going to be difficult. There's irony in the anger toward Nico leaving Tennessee with this kind of timing at the end of spring, and then expecting that a bunch of quarterbacks who are starters at other schools would be willing to just leave their school and come be your quarterback. So that's why it's going to be difficult, because the idea of it can sound so absurd. That does not mean that there won't be anybody, but power 4 established starter, that's difficult, because that quarterback, it's not just about money, because that quarterback, whoever it would be or they would be that Tennessee might reach out to, can also just go back to their school and say, hey, I need this amount of money to stay. And that school's probably going to do it to make sure they don't have to replace their starting quarterback at the end of spring. So I would think that there'll be somebody like Gio Lopez, and the news of him entering the portal this week, but immediately being connected to North Carolina. So that type of quarterback could end up being at Tennessee this fall. But an established Power 4 conference quarterback, be careful with names you see on the internet where people are just hoping, hey, this guy, that guy. Be careful with that, because there's so many fake accounts or parody accounts, whatever, that are linking names. That makes it feel like, hey, there are all these options, and it's not that way.
Yeah, and I mean, not just that, but it's also just speculation. I mean, it's the crazy times here. But go back to that Lopez to UNC. That's the expected move there. Mac Johnson's been a name that's been thrown around the last couple hours. And again, would he want to leave? Would he into the portal? I don't know. But if you are the presumed starting quarterback and then they bring in a quarterback, maybe you leave. That's the type of situation I'm kind of looking for. Like Mac Johnson, he's not all SEC. He's not an All-American. He has starting experience. He had starting experience in this league. He just can't stay healthy. If Tennessee were able to get a guy like that to come in here, push Jake Merklinger for sure, obviously add another, guy that could probably win the job, I think that'd be a really good situation for Tennessee. Again, we'll see what Max Johnson decides to do. He's not in the portal at the time of this recording, but, a Joe Milton type situation that's got a little bit of experience. I think that's more likely for Tennessee in terms of finding a quarterback in the transfer portal that can actually push to be the starter.
Yeah, that type scenario is very believable and very realistic. I would also say temper expectations for that type quarterback of what he's going to be able to do. That's going to be an adult in the room that can come in and handle what's thrown at him with a quick turnaround. But having to learn everything, learn the new system, develop relationship chemistry with new teammates, and be ready to play, turning things around in 4 months, that's a lot. So that's why expectations have to change for where things are with Tennessee, unless we're surprised and there is an established, proven Power 4 quarterback that comes in. That would still, the same would apply in terms of learning and getting acclimated, all that stuff. But if we're talking about somebody that's just been around but has never played at a really high level consistently, well, Tennessee has an offense where everybody else is trying to learn at the same time as well. Young wide receivers, new offensive line, less experienced at running back. I think they could be pretty good there this year. That's a lot to have to put together with a new quarterback who may be starting at the end of August that might not be on the roster right now.
The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on all the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel, you can place your first $5 bet. You'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I'm going to say that one more time. It's a really, really good deal here. For your first $5 bet, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into the player props, from three-pointers to steals, to assists, to block shots. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine those prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance at a major, major win. All that and more is over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Again, $5 bet. You'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All that and more is at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more. If Tennessee enters the fall, and again, you just don't have the answer to this question. We haven't seen Jake Merklinger play an awful lot. But if Tennessee enters the fall with Jake Merklinger being the presumed starter, QB1, obviously that's probably going to change your thoughts on a win-loss record. But, I kind of talked about this yesterday. Like, if you can just manage the game, you're going to have a good run game, you would think. I think the offensive, again, these are questions. I think the run game's going to be fine. I think the offensive line's going to be fine. The receivers, hard to be worse. The defense is going to be pretty good. Like, sure, it's not ideal, but for a guy that can just manage, grow, evolve, not the end of the world, but obviously probably not the situation you still want to be in. And that's no disrespect to Jake Merklinger. I think he's had a phenomenal spring. He's improved. But I still think there's a chance for you to be a pretty decent football team, even if he is the one leading the charge in the fall. Am I off here? Am I wrong here?
I think that's right, that they can be pretty decent. Now, what does that mean, win-loss record?
Yeah.
So a week ago, I think the win-loss record hope of most Tennessee fans was 10-2.
Yep.
That's not on the table. If Jake Merklinger is the starting quarterback, realistically, could he stun me? I guess that's what it would be. I'd be stunned if they go 10-2 with Jake Merklinger as the starting quarterback. But if you're willing to say, hey, 8-4, try to be in enough games where 9-3 is on the table, then yeah, I could believe that. But the playoff expectation that existed a week ago, I think, becomes unrealistic if Jake is the starting quarterback and is the guy through the season.
You look at the team, you hear the players talk on Saturday, Miles Kitselman, Arian Carter. They said all the right things. I think it was Carter that said, that's my brother, love him, wish him the best. You're going to get that same song and dance. They said it about Tobe Awaka and about, Jonas Adu in basketball season. That's just kind of where you are. But, they felt a type of way about it. These are teammates that got hung out the drive Friday morning. Miles Kitselman was not happy. Mm-hmm. How do you think that this team's going to rally? Do you think this team will rally? Do you think this team has the leadership to kind of weather these storms? It looked good on Saturday, but again, that's just one day. The real challenge now and trying to navigate this, leading up to the season.
I would think that they rally. I would think that they kind of come together, because I think what Arian Carter and Miles Kitselman had to say was genuine. It's also easy to have that mindset and attitude in mid-April when you have the drive of feeling like you were hung out there by a guy that was supposed to be a leader of the football team. How do they respond against Georgia in September? And if that game goes poorly, does the team stay together? If they have another loss, an unexpected loss, so take out the Alabama game on the road, what if they lose to Oklahoma? How do they respond in that kind of game? So I have no doubt that everything Arian Carter said, he meant. Same for Miles Kitselman, and then other players behind the scenes are saying similar things. But I've already wondered about leadership, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because how many guys can help Miles Kitselman in that regard? A guy, by the way, who's coming back from injury. So you're asking players who are trying to establish themselves in roles on the field to now be bigger leaders at the same time, because the guy that was supposed to take charge there is gone, in Nico. And that is part of the frustration, I'm sure, for Tennessee's coaching staff, that they were asking Nico to step up in a role that maybe he's probably not all that comfortable with. He's talked about that a little bit. And now that's wiped out. And asking Jake Merklinger to be the leader of the group sounds nice, but that's putting a lot on him. He was not planning to be the guy. Tennessee staff had no plans of him being the guy, and we still don't know that he will be. They definitely didn't plan that for George MacIntyre. They didn't plan to have to go find another quarterback. So everything that they spent the last 5 weeks talking about and working toward during spring practice is tossed into the trash can, and they have to restart.
Going to keep you a couple extra minutes of overtime here, if that's okay with you. Obviously, a lot to talk about. Speaking of Jake Merklinger, George MacIntyre, orange and white game. Were you there?
I was not at the orange and white game. No.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was a glorified practice. I mean, it was about as watered down of a orange and white game, and they've been watered down for years. But quarterbacks went and made some plays. I thought George MacIntyre looked pretty good. I thought his mobility, extending plays, looked pretty good, albeit there was about half the team that was in street clothes and all that. But fans kind of got excited. Maybe it was the fact that Nico was fresh on the mind and you saw a guy running around there making some plays. I do think that George MacIntyre is an early enrollee. I think that he's going to be a true freshman. I think that everything is fast for him right now. I don't think that he's going to be a guy that's, at least in year one, I could be wrong, that's really going to factor into things. Plus, he needs to gain about 10 or 15 pounds. But it feels like he finished spring off strong. Feels like Jake Merklinger had a really good spring in general. Overall thoughts on Tennessee's spring practice, taking the Nico thing out of the equation as it came to an end on Saturday?
Well, I think just for those two quarterbacks, Merklinger and MacIntyre, they're positives in terms of their development. Merklinger where he was a year ago to where he is now. MacIntyre as an early enrollee, true freshman who obviously has to get bigger, obviously has to learn more, but his physical traits, what he can do throwing the football with some mobility, those are all positives for the future. And maybe as this season goes along. So when I talk about expectations, the expectations for the end of August and the start of September can be different from where you think those two quarterbacks can be in October and November. Again, not knowing if one of those guys is the starter for this upcoming season or during the season. But I still have the same questions I had at the start of spring. Okay, this wide receiving core that has talent, is it going to show off all that potential throughout the season? The offensive line, how is it going to come together? The center position is a question mark for me, replacing Cooper Mays. How William Satterwhite, assuming he's the guy, performs this season. I do like Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop. I think that's a real positive for the offense. So I had questions about the offense, and that was with an established starter coming back. So you have the change up at that position. It kind of amplifies the questions everywhere else.
Spring transfer portal window opens today. Again, we talked about that a little bit with the quarterback. Tennessee's obviously in the market for a quarterback. You've got some more money now, just putting it bluntly. You couldn't say that a couple years ago, but here we are. And that maybe can change in terms of overspending to make sure you get a quarterback or at other positions. Tennessee, in my opinion, has got to add a wide receiver. Has to add a wide receiver. That has not changed. I think Tennessee needs to add a defensive tackle. We'll see about the defensive backfield. I think they really like that young group of players that they have, and the Trey Poteets and the Ty Redmonds and Dylan Lewis's and all those guys. So where are you in the transfer portal in terms of what Tennessee needs to accomplish outside of the quarterback position?
Ranking needs, quarterback is one. Then I would go to wide receiver because I'm with you. A week ago when Nico was the starter, I still believe Tennessee needed to go add a wide receiver who has experience and has proven that he can play. And that is no knock on the talent of the rest of the group. There's just such a lack of experience. I think Tennessee needs to add, and that would be amplified by the change at quarterback, right? The wide receiver group needs to improve with the quarterback position changing. And then I agree with everything you said. I still have a big question about the secondary because while they might like the young talent, I always wonder how much trust are they going to have in that young talent. So if they can find experience there, with the question about Jermon McCoy coming back from the torn ACL. When Jordan Matthews left, I thought, okay, adding another guy would probably be good here because your depth has taken a hit, and I don't know how much the staff is going to trust young players behind them. So I would go in order: quarterback, wide receiver, interior D-line, DB.
Last question out the door. Again, I was doing well, Josh. You'd be proud of me, man. I was talking tons of hoops and hoops portal, and I was doing separate interviews and loading them separately, really attacking this transfer portal cycle for basketball. The numbers were pretty good as well, so that was some motivation. And then the Nico story happens, and I haven't even hadn't even crossed my mind, what's going on with Tennessee in the portal? Where are they with Freeman? Where are they with Rodney Rice? Where are they with Nate Amen? Of course, he's a prep player, but I know you're still keeping track of all that stuff, so tell me, changes by the minute. Rick Barnes went and saw Nate Amen, I think it was yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. Rodney Rice has taken visits all over the place. You thought it was Tennessee, Villanova. Kind of where is Tennessee in trying to finalize this roster for the upcoming basketball season?
Yeah, it's funny. The idea of talking about high school recruiting is almost forgotten, even in basketball, where they can make an immediate impact more than football most often. But I think this is a big deal. If Tennessee can pull off a recruiting win and getting Nate Ament and keeping him away from Duke or some of the other SEC schools that have been in there, like Kentucky or Arkansas, he could be a game-changing player in terms of what Tennessee's capable of. I'm not saying as a freshman he'd come in and be the best player. He could, but with Jacoby Gillespie coming in, and he immediately talked about trying to go get Nate to join up, and his goal is to get Rodney Rice as well. Getting Rice would be a big deal. Adding some scoring help is really important for what Tennessee can do, and Rice is a guy that can shoot from the outside. He can score. He has big game experience, was a part of going to the Sweet 16 with Jacoby Gillespie. And, just finding more scoring, shooting, wing help. Nate Ament's a guy that could help in a number of areas with his length, his overall talent. Needs to get stronger. Tennessee could help him with that. But if Tennessee can land Nate Ament, that's going to change the way Tennessee is viewed, and that will amplify Tennessee's chances of having a shot at winning the SEC and trying to get to the Final Four, which will, again, be the goal no matter what the roster is this year.
Josh Ward, co-host with VFL Jason Swain on Josh and Swain, 99.1 The Sports Animal, noon to 3 Eastern. A lot going on right now, man. I would imagine you guys got good shows lined up to kind of continue this story, moving past Nico Iamaleava, but also, what's to come, because Tennessee, regardless, got to find a quarterback. It's going to be news. It's going to be exciting to talk about. So no slow days on Josh and Swain, right?
Yeah, 12 to 3, Monday through Friday. You can search Josh and Swain wherever you get your podcasts. And Kevin Simon, VFL talent evaluator, he was on Monday's show in for Swain, the Hall of Famer. He went into the Huntsville Sports Hall of Fame on Monday evening, is why he was away. And then Swain was back on Tuesday. So you can get some VFL perspective on what's going on the field, plus the off-field conversation. 12 to 3, Monday through Friday, Josh and Swain.
Always appreciate Josh Ward stopping by the show. Ward Wednesday right here on Locked On Vols. Did a little overtime because of the magnitude of what's going on here for Tennessee. Transfer portal's open today. We'll see exactly who are some of those names, who are some names linked to Tennessee. Tennessee's got to find a quarterback. They got some work to do, and we'll cover it all right here on Locked On Vols. Hey, when we come back, I'll check in with Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On College Football. I had a conversation with him earlier in the week after Nico left Tennessee, so we'll play that and get his thoughts on the whole situation at the University of Tennessee. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Vols.
So I look at what this situation brings to the table, and last year you and I have talked about this before, and this was the narrative around Nico coming into the season is, can he take a step forward? Because maybe your defense will be good and maybe your run game will be good, but will it be dominant like it was last year? Probably not. So you need more out of that quarterback position, and you've got a couple of young guys who, as you said, don't have a lot of experience. But when you look at the transfer portal market for quarterbacks right now, Eric, it's pretty slim pickings.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see an option as for all the flaws that Nico has, and you can point those out. That's fine. Who's in the portal? Right, Jaden Rashada. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's not a thing. You go from a crazy NIL. Yeah, that's just. Let's.
That would be
that
quite
down.
the pivot. That would be quite the pivot.
That would be quite the pivot to go from one of the craziest NIL recruitments to the craziest NIL influenced recruitment in recent memory, or maybe of all time in college football. So, but when you look at the portal, where do you even go? Who do you look to? Are you trying to pull somebody else's starting quarterback right now? Or are you scouring message boards not message boards for coaching staffs, but are you physically scouring message boards to figure out, hey, which guy is going to lose his starting quarterback job and suddenly transfer, and then Tennessee could go get him?
I mean, I'm not saying that Tennessee is going to do this or whatever, but let's not sit here and act like, players can't be reached out to and spoken to, who are not in the portal. It's going by third parties and agents and all that. You have agents who are shopping around their players regardless before they even jump in the transfer portal. My point is, there will be quarterbacks that jump in the portal here when it officially opens this week. Any of them to the caliber of Nico Iamaleava? No, heck no. Why? Because it's April, 14th. It's April 14th, okay? Who in their right mind thinks they have a great opportunity to go and win a starting job and to play at the caliber that they need to play at a Power 4, specifically the SEC, to try to knock on the door to a college football playoff, if you want to transfer on April the 14th, that just doesn't make sense, okay? This is not the December window. This is the April window. So, yeah, there's nobody in the transfer portal right now. Having said that, spring practice just wrapped up. Obviously, Nico is a massive domino, okay? It's a massive domino in the college football landscape. Could there be some guys that maybe jump in the portal and or jump in with a no-contact tag on or something? I don't know. We'll see. But, Tennessee will – I don't think it matters who it is. Tennessee will have to get one quarterback for the transfer portal regardless. And you hope that it's a guy that will come in and compete and really push Jake Merklinger and try to win that job, and that'd be awesome. But regardless, I mean, Tennessee doesn't have a choice. They have 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So I don't care if it's the last rated guy in the portal in the quarterback rankings. Like, he's coming to Tennessee if need be, because they've got to add somebody to that room.
So right now, according to 24/7, with the portal open on Wednesday, by the way, we'll see which signal callers wind up changing schools. Or maybe you try to find a quarterback who is already somewhere and you try to get him to pull a Bill O'Brien at Ohio State. Hey, I know you said you were going there, but we're kind of a more attractive option over here because Bill O'Brien was going to be an OC at Ohio State. Instead, he's the head coach at Boston College. They did all right last year. The highest rated quarterback in the portal, not named Nico Iamaleava, is Jaden Rashada, according to 24/7 Sports. Then it's Aiden Glover, who's transferring from Missouri. James Rassar, who's transferring from Iowa. Dylan Risk, transferring from UCF. Trevor Jackson, transferring from Florida State. Those are the 5 highest-rated guys available, according to 24/7. Tate Rodemaker, one-time Florida State Seminole, he's in the portal. There are no names. Like, there's not a clear-cut option out there. So, man, do you go out and find a guy? Is it worth bringing in a transfer who is just going to compete, but you think, he's not really a starting caliber guy? Like, there's a real scenario where a month from now we feel like Tennessee is almost kind of punting on this season, right? If neither of the young guys can, I know you said one of them is having a really good spring, but if they feel, I don't know, it's not really going to be there, like, could this be a 6-win season for Tennessee?
Oh, God, no. Oh, no, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
Jake Merklinger
Just
can go
checking.
and
Just checking.
They can go hand the football off and beat probably Mississippi State by 10, right? I mean,
there's no Mississippi State slander on this show, Eric. Mississippi State is going to beat. I have been saying this for months. They're beating someone that nobody thinks they should this year. Look out, Vols. Look out.
That might be hyperbole, but my point is, again, this roster this roster is really good. This defense will be really good. Tennessee's got playmakers. Tennessee, again, the offensive line, I think, is going to be pretty good. The running back room is diverse. There's a lot of guys. There's different type of bodies in there. No, I mean, Tennessee absolutely won't punt on this season. I know they physically wouldn't be trying to, like, throw the season or anything, but Tennessee, again, like, it doesn't have a choice. It has to get another quarterback body. So, again, whether it is the lowest ranked quarterback in the portal when it's all said and done, or somebody jumps in the portal and they get him or whatever, and if it's somebody that's going to come in and compete and have a real chance of starting, or if it's somebody that's just going to come in and be nothing but depth. I mean, Tennessee at minimum has got to just get one guy just to get a body. Now, again, spring just wrapped up, for everybody for the most part, right? And or spring is still ongoing, but the transfer portal was opening this weekend. I mean, you've got backup quarterbacks sitting at places around the country saying, man, this is BS. I want to play. What's going on? I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting paid anything. I'm not getting the field. This is, the coach hates me. And then you see Nico leave Tennessee, and they're probably been like, hey, see if they have any interest in me. See if they have any interest in me. I mean, that's how these things work. And so there's going to be a lot of guys that jump in the portal. But again, nobody to the level, nobody to the magnitude of a Nico Iamaleava. So it's going to be interesting for sure. But no, to put it plainly, Tennessee will get somebody from the portal. Whether he comes in and starts, I have no clue, but they will get somebody from the portal. And again, no, like, you're not punting on this team. Now, it's very fair to say, well, I had Tennessee kind of on the brink maybe of a college football playoff team. Now, absolutely not. That's fair. Absolutely fair. But this team is too talented to win 6 games.
So last thing, Eric, I liked what Josh Heupel said a lot in the midst of all this. And he's in a tough position, right? How much control does he have over it when you've got a collective involved or anybody who might be in Nico's ear? We have no idea, really. Like, it's a difficult position for a head coach to be in. Like when you see veteran head coaches in college basketball or college football or college sports in general step aside and say, I'm retiring now, this right here, this is the perfect example as to why. Is situations mostly beyond his control, just lost him as starting quarterback. Like, he's got to throw it, but I thought he came out and gave a great answer.
He was phenomenal the other day. I mean, that was, and right now, the time of this recording, and it's never going to stay like this, right? But you've got the Tennessee football fan base that's unified right now. It's, oh, he don't want to be here, long be gone. Get out of here, man. You know, line in the sand, not going to go over it. Way to go, Josh Heupel. Tennessee's not going to take that. I mean, that's great. Like, I'm not trying to make fun of it. That's awesome. Like, the fan base right now is unified, and enough is enough, right? And this is why it's kind of an interesting conversation. You and I can both have it at a later date. Nico was the poster child for NIL. He's now potentially the course corrector, because this is the first time now for a player of his magnitude where a Power 4 team that was just in the CFP said, nope, we're out.
Not worth it.
No, we're not worth it.
That's
and for that reason, I'm out. And so, you know, it's interesting to see if anybody else will follow this in the years to come. But anyway, what was the question again?
It was just talking about Josh Heupel.
Oh, yeah, Josh.
I thought he did great.
But I thought Josh Heupel was phenomenal the other day, saying nobody's bigger than the Power T. And then he kind of got fired up a little bit, talking about the quarterbacks he's coached in the years past, young guys, old guys, pocket passers, mobile guys. He kind of went on a little bit of a flex there, saying, I won a lot of games, a lot of different quarterbacks. I've lost quarterbacks in week 6. I've lost quarterbacks on day 1 of spring practice, on day 1 of fall camp, and I've rallied and gone on to win conference titles. So, yeah, sure, you're at Tennessee right now, a little bit of a different situation, but he's a winner. He's a competitor, and I thought he handled the other day just about as well as anybody could handle given the circumstances. He was frustrated, but boy, did he say all the right things. And I think thanking Nico, like, thanks for your time being here, best of luck, is the right move, man. I mean, it was
He looked like a head coach.
Great stuff there, as always, from Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On College Football. Encourage you to go check that out. Make that your second, third listen. Locked On Vols, Locked On College Football, Locked On SEC. Make those your primary listens here to get you going through transfer portal season. The window for the spring season officially open. Tennessee's got some needs. Tennessee's got some work to do. It's an exciting time for a fan. It's Tennessee, kind of like Tennessee basketball, that's still assembling that roster right now, trying to put these final pieces and trying to pick up the pieces from, you know, what happened over the weekend with your starting quarterback leaving via the transfer portal. So, fun show today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll continue to break down the latest in Tennessee and the transfer portal, all that and more as we continue on with the Locked On Vols, your Thursday show. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody.